There we go. All right, pardon the interruption. So the other day, a YouTube video popped up in my feed as a recommended video. It was this beautifully sung acoustic performance of a new song I really love called Little Blue. The video looked a little bit like this. You can see it's in this beautiful cathedral. There's like 50 people in a choir. And there's this an amazing artist, musician named Jacob Collier, and he's singing beautifully, accompanied by his delicate acoustic guitar. And he sings a song, and I want to sing it together. I'm going to teach you the song throughout the sermon. So it goes a little bit like this. Don't be afraid of the dark in your heart. You're gonna find a way to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You're gonna find your way home. That's the chorus of the song. But don't judge me. I was listening to this music video, and I got about 2 minutes in, and despite like the beautiful artistic moment, I just totally lost focus, like a good Gen Z. So I started, and I can't say that. I'm just on the edge of being Gen Z. I started scrolling through the comments, as many of us will do, scrolling through the comments. And I was reading them. And the last one there, I don't know if you'll be able to read it, so don't worry about it, because I'll read it to you. But the last one absolutely just caught my eye and struck my heart. Someone wrote this, quote, "At age 84, I'm probably one of Jacob's oldest fans." That's the artist. "I retain a vibrant curiosity about life, but suffer from depression due to social isolation and, more recently, physical limitations. This song has become an elixir for me that is something of healing, to be relished at least once daily." That's beautiful. So I was deeply moved and intrigued, and so I kept scrolling, and I found out that this person wasn't alone. People deeply and personally resonated with this song. I found another place where another person wrote, quote, "My son passed away 2 years ago. When I hear this song, I hear his voice singing these words to me. It brings me peace. It lifts me. It fills me with the strength I need to carry on and closer to him. You can't imagine how much this song means to me." So for all these people, the song is a beacon of light amidst the darkness of their lives. They just hear it over and over again, and they come back to it. So I want to sing this again, and I'm going to invite you to join if you're ready. And don't worry, there's going to be more opportunities if you're not quite ready. All right, if you're ready, join me. Singing, don't be afraid of the dark in your heart. You're gonna find a way to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You're gonna find your way home. Beautiful. And I bring this up partially because the Bible passage that we read today are song lyrics. In fact, the book of the Bible we call the Psalms is a musical album. It's a collection of song lyrics. Each psalm is a song, and each psalmist is a songwriter. And like our friends on YouTube, these songs operated in every way like a beacon of light for the ancient people of Israel. The Psalms are songs of hope, meant to speak light into all of our human experience of sorrow, of death, of joy, of exaltation, of praise, of grief. And these songs echo and reverberate through Christian churches like ours. And later we'll get to sing this song together. Now, the Song of Hope we read today is a special one, stylistically speaking. I'm going to say something a little bit weird, but this psalm is written like a superhero movie. In some ways, it's written like a Disney movie or like a fantasy movie. In fact, what's your favorite movie? Chances are it's a little bit similar. Okay, hear me out. It's similar because of this. It's really clear who the bad guys and good guys are. The bad guys and the good guys. For the songwriter, the bad guys are described as sinners, the wicked, and mockers. Check out verse 1. Who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or stand around with sinners, or join in with mockers. It's really clear who the bad guys are. The bad guys are like the Darth Vaders, the Jokers, the He Who Shall Not Be Named, and the Regina Georges of the song. And like the movies, it's really clear that the bad guys, in the psalm, it's really clear that the bad guy's way leads to destruction. You know, like, why is Mr. Vader always obsessed with world domination? It's like, get a healthy hobby, man. In a similar vein, the songwriter writes in verse 6, you can see at the bottom line there, the path of the wicked leads to destruction. So you know the narrative arc in Star Wars. You know that the good guys win in the end. And the psalm writer is saying the same thing about the world. Because God is creator, because he is sovereign over, because he is Lord over the whole world, ultimately the way of the righteous, the way of the good guys will win out in the end. The way of the bad guys will not last forever, even though they're part of the story now. So in verse 4 and 5, as we read, the psalmist writes, the bad guys are just going to blow away in the wind. In a way, the songwriter is saying that the Darth Vaders of his time are going down. These forces of evil cannot reign in the world forever because the loving God is resisting and opposing these bad guys. Ultimately, the way of the loving God will triumph. All right, but who are the good guys of this song? In other words, who is the Moana? Who's the Spider-Woman, the Gwen Stacy? Who's the Aslan? And who's the Harry Potter of this psalm? In the song, verses 1 and 2 give us a hint. They tell us, it's those who delight in God's instruction. Those who delight in what the poet calls the law of the Lord. And now, roughly speaking, the law of the Lord was what was known of the Bible at that time for the writer. Certainly the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah, and perhaps more of the Bible. For the songwriter, the good guys meditate on God's word, the scriptures. Now, like these movies, the way of these good folks will triumph. They will be joyful and blessed. These are the folks that stand in solidarity with the way of love. I mean, think Harry Potter. Of defending the vulnerable. These folks stand for courage and tender care for others. And the psalmist is saying, this is the way of life that will flourish. And this flows over into the next verse, in verse 3, into this just beautiful picture. The songwriter writes, quote, here we are. They are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit in each season. Their leaves never wither, and they prosper in all they do. And I think this is just a fitting image for this time of year in spring. There's just all these blossoms out, there's flowers, it smells amazing. The songwriter is saying, with the scriptures, we are nourished to be these beautiful trees that are nourished and bear fruit for others. In many ways, we are to be like the cherry blossoms that we see all around. All right. You might be thinking at this point, that's cool. Good guys and bad guys, it's simple. But if you've lived a little, you know that there's no clear line between good guys and bad guys, right and wrong. Life isn't quite like that, isn't so clear. Everyone is part good, part bad, and we know that. And that's exactly what I'm saying with the style of this song. These contrasts, like our TV shows, highlight a beautiful, virtuous way of life with the scriptures, not because they know everything is perfectly black and white, but because they want to show us, by contrast, this beautiful way of life, much like we look up to these movie heroes. And yet, I want to highlight a difference in the way that Psalm is not like what we read or what we see on TV. There's a difference. The psalm writer is not writing about fictional characters or stories or fantasies. No, I would say that I would argue that the psalmist here is writing from good old-fashioned, hard-earned life experience. This is a songwriter who knows, like us, the sorrows of life and the joys, what they've experienced in their life and heart. And I mean to say, it's less like a fantasy, and it's more like this YouTube comment on the same song, based on a person's everyday experience. Quote, "I work in urgent care, and I always sit in my car before coming home to my wife and daughter for 10 minutes to make sure I'm calm and positive. I think this is going to be the song I listen to before I see them for the next couple of weeks." I think it's more like this. This is where the psalmist is coming from when they're writing this. They're writing from experience. And these contrasts just show that. And like this comment, the psalmist is saying that they find hope in the scriptures, in the Bible. It gives them this profound hope. And so I'm wondering, to get into this sense of hope, if we can just sing the song again. Sing it together and think about that comment and the psalmist together. All right. Thanks, Vince. All right, let's sing together. Singing, don't be afraid of the dark. In your heart, you're gonna find a way to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You're gonna find your way home. And I wonder, like the commenters on this song, what life experiences is the psalmist writing from? Where is this song coming from? What place, what part of their life were they when they wrote it? And what in the Bible gives them such hope? Why did the psalmist say, for instance, "I delight in the law of the Lord and meditate on it day and night," in the same way that someone wrote about this song we've been singing? Quote, "This song has become an elixir, a place of healing, to be relished at least once daily." Well, we don't know for sure when this song was written, the psalm, the Bible passage. But given what we know about the Bible, there's so many possibilities. You know, perhaps the songwriter was a widow. You can just imagine her late at night reciting this verse over and over again in her heart, which is from the law of the Lord. quote, you must not exploit a widow or orphan. If you exploit them in any way and they cry out to me, then I will certainly hear their cry. And you can just imagine that this verse catching her heart, ringing out like a defiant chorus day and night, inspiring the writing of the psalm. And perhaps, in another example, perhaps the songwriter is any number of Israelites living under political oppression and violence. You can think of the Assyrians who conquered the northern kingdom of Israel, or the Babylonians who conquered Judah, or the Persians who later ruled over them. I can just imagine how much this part of the law of the Lord, the Bible, might have meant to them. The start of the Ten Commandments, where God says, I am the Lord your God, who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of slavery. And I can just imagine for the people, for the Israelites, how day and night this verse could ring in their heart like a melody that's their closest friend. It reminds them of how their ancestors were delivered from oppression, reminding them that God is the true ruler, and that someday God will return to rescue their people. They come to this verse again and again, repeating it in their hearts, meditating on it day and night, finding in it the strength and joy to live. So what I'm trying to say is that perhaps what the psalmist found in the scriptures and what's behind the song is this radical hope that's much like another comment that I found about the song. Quote, I'm from Ukraine. Here's the second year of the war. We don't have tap water today, and the Russian bombers are airborne right now to strike us with missiles. They do it constantly during the winter to destroy our power plants and leave us without warmth, water, and electricity. But this very song gave me hope and tremendous eagerness to live. Thank you. So the psalmist has found in the Bible, in the scriptures, this defiant hope that brings life, that leads the world away from evil and into flourishing life. And despite evil and suffering all around, the scriptures are consolation. So really, what I think the psalmist might be saying is this: the Bible is a broken heart's delight. It's a place of healing, joy, and of life, an elixir for evil and suffering. A place where consolation and ultimately life is found. Now, as we've been praying and sharing, we're like the psalmist. We are people with gritty, day in, day out life experiences. Sorrows, tragedies, joys. And it just makes me wonder, just like I wondered when I read those YouTube comments, if they found hope in this song and the psalmist finds hope in the scriptures, what hope is there in it for us? For the places where our hearts break, what is the song of the scriptures stirring in us? The psalm invites us to wonder, could the scriptures be an anthem of hope to our broken hearts? Could the scriptures be a song of healing, of refuge? And is the Bible something we can return to over and over again, giving us strength when we walk through grief, peace when we walk through anxiety, consolation when we live in a broken family, encouragement when we never feel good enough, solidarity when we constantly feel lonely, and hope when we feel like giving up? The psalm invites us to wonder, what could these scriptures be? What is this work of art? Jumping ahead. And yet, we want to recognize that the scriptures are not everyone's anthem of hope and beacon of light right now. No, and that makes sense. You know, I bet you that the psalm writer knows about this kind of thing from experience. The songwriter lived a whole life before composing this song. And I reckon that the psalm writer came to their connection with the Bible that they wrote about over time. Like us, they lived a little. Likely at many points in their life, they were just like us, or many of us, struggling to relate to the Scriptures. And perhaps even as a young person, they heard it read out loud and just thought it was strange and repetitive. As I say, the songwriter was a person just like you and I. They lived a little, they experienced joy, they experienced heartbreak. And perhaps they wrote about sinners and mockers and the bad guys from first-hand experience. It wasn't just those people over there, but it was actually them. They're writing from experience, knowing what it's like to walk away from the law of the Lord. And similarly, on the other hand, they spoke about being righteous and joyful from first-hand experience too. They're a person who lives just like you and I. And eventually, over time, they found out for themselves that the Scriptures were for them, and it inspired them to write this song. It was something that just was cultivated over time as they lived in the world. So for us today, here in this room, I wonder, where are we in our strange journey of relating to this strange text, the Bible? Everyone's experience in their own journey might be different so far, and we're in different places. And I want to say that if we're struggling, confused, or conflicted, we're not alone. We're in this together. So with this in mind, I just wanted to give us some space to reflect on how we might relate to the Scriptures at this point of our journey. Whether it's completely weird or foreign, or whether it's a beautiful song of consolation for us, or whether it's somewhere in between. Just to hold up our experience and to notice where we're at. So we're going to do a familiar exercise, and I'm going to invite all of y'all to participate. I'm going to put these 6 images on the screen. We did something similar at our Easter potluck, so you'll be familiar. So I'm going to give us a few minutes to reflect. What's your relationship like with the Bible? And to kind of associate it, I've seen Evelyn and our friend Wendy do this wonderfully, just to associate it with a different picture. You know, is your relationship with the Bible best symbolized by picture number 2, let's say? Or picture number 4, per se, or let's say. So I'm going to invite you to just reflect on that. And if there's another image that comes to mind, that's okay. Yeah, like just one in your imagination. Hold on to that too. So I'm just going to give you maybe 1 minute of quiet. We can sit here and just reflect. And then I'm going to invite you to get in groups of 3, 2 or 3, and just to share. And no pressure to share more than you would like to. It's enough to just say, perhaps I'm number 2. We're all here to just listen to each other and to encourage one another. So, without further ado, I'm going to give us a minute of silence just to reflect, and then I'm going to invite you all to find a few people next to you to chat with. All right, I'm going to call everyone back now, so if you can wind up those conversations. But you can stick around with your groups, because I have one more question. But I'm wondering if we can, just to show each other what was going on, raise with our hands the one we most identified with. So like, I don't know, if you're 6, you would do this. And just like look around the room. 6, I see a 4. See 6, 1, quite a few 6s. Which one is 6? Oh, a lot of meals. I see a 2. I see a number of 2s. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, yeah, some patterns, but a lot of difference. That's cool. So I also wanted to ask us, we talked about ourselves and our own relationship with the Bible, but I wanted to flip around and think, as a community, where are we at? And maybe to break us out into our groups again for just a couple more minutes and to think, for us as F3C, is it different? Is it the same as our own relationship with the Bible? Where are we at as a community? How do you think about it over time? And if you're new to our community, you can think about communities you've been a part of in the past, or if you're just completely new, perhaps what you might think of how Christians engage with the Bible. You can take it in different ways. But to reflect on what is our relationship as a community like with the Scriptures. So I'm going to give us, like 2 or 3 minutes to chat over that, something like that. So you can gather back in your same groups and give the chat. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions? Okay, we're good. All right, cool. So everyone, I wonder if we could do the same thing again, and we just hold up our fingers and look around and see where we're at. Is that okay? Okay, so I got some 3s. I've got to map it. 3s. A lot of 3s, some 1s. A lot of 6s. A lot of 6s. Cool. No, thanks everyone. That's wonderful. Yeah, and part of this exercise was just to illustrate that we're at a lot of different places. And I was talking to Eddie, and we were talking about how you could make a case for all of these. It's complicated. But with Psalm 1, I wanted to invite us to consider that the Scriptures can be a place of hope, of healing, and of life-giving for us. To consider for the possibility, from wherever we're coming from, and that's okay, are the Scriptures a place of hope and light and healing that we can return to time and time again? And this is ours to just discover and ponder as we live into what our vision statement says, that we are a biblically grounded community. It's for us to consider whether the Bible is about love triumphing in the end over the bad guys, whether it is really about Jesus healing the whole world, bringing about a whole new era where sorrow, pain, and death are defeated, like Evelyn said, and one where hope, love, joy, and playfulness, and peace abound. So, my prayer is that for us, we find that the Scriptures are a song of hope like this. And so I'm going to invite you, I've adapted the lyrics to the song a little bit, and I'm just going to invite us to sing it all together. All right, are y'all ready? Cool. Singing, don't be afraid of the dark in your heart. We're gonna find a way, because all the weight of the world's on God's shoulders. We're gonna find a way. Don't be afraid of the dark in your heart. We're gonna find a way, because all the weight of the world on God's shoulders. We're gonna find our way home. Amen.